Well, we've got a fantastic discussion coming up next, all about a recipe for success. So, how do you organize sustainability within a business? I mean, does it manage itself? We had that poll earlier on, which no one could respond to, but now we're going to hear from the experts about, is there a need for a centralized function? Should everybody just, do what they think is best? We've got fantastic a group of panelists and experts in this field. So you know them all. You've seen their bios in the agenda. So I'm just going to say hi to Esther, to Eric, to Lawrence, to Anirban, and to Amita, and let's get to it. And what I'd like to do is ask all of the panelists in turn to just please tell us a little bit about yourself, just introduce yourself and share your view on the key measure of success for a chief sustainability officer or a senior sustainability leader in an organization. The key measure of success for a chief sustainability officer. Esther, shall we start with you?
Okay, yeah, greeting, from Singapore, and thank you for having me. And this is always an Oscar of sustainability reporting agenda every year. I love to come to this event, and I think we have heard what Tim has said, and sustainability has evolved a lot. So for my own journey, I started more than 2 decades ago, and of course, how we started was because building sector has very high environmental impact, still accounting for about 40% of greenhouse gas emission. And why I joined the industry is also, I think this industry can, is in a position to drive change, because you don't need to be in the industry. You live, work, and play and use buildings and real estate. So I think this is something that we have seen it over the, past 2 decades. And today, when you talk about what make a successful, CSO, you have seen a lot more CSO in town now. So sometimes we feel that it's like, oh, okay, what exactly make a sustainability, leader and all. And for me, I really feel that you need a lot of ground experience and you need a lot of hands-on experience. So for me, sustainability is not just about the science of climate change. The science is clear. We all talk about 1.5 degree and all that. But what I feel that as a good CSO, you need to have the art, of strategic and systemic thinking. You need to be a strategist. You also have to be a tireless implementer. You need to run and chase everybody, because internal stakeholder, external stakeholder along the whole value chain ecosystem, you need to have the art and the energy to really engage them, to build a bigger force for change. So that is really a combination of, and the science and the arts and all. And on top of it, we have to be very calculative. We need to be like an accountant, and an auditor, because all our ESG data now are subject to external assurance and internal audit as well. So I think most importantly for me, I started as a communicator, a brand, a branding and a journalist, training. So advocacy is very important. No one person can change the world and save the world alone. So I feel that the communication skills is so important, and how you can advocate and build a larger ecosystem to drive change. And then, of course, the publication of sustainability reporting has evolved so much over, I have done 14 report planning for the 15th one already. So wow. Definitely you need to do a lot of, data, analytic, compilation of data, getting people on board. So it's a combination of the arts and the science and the engineering. And of course, we talk about innovation. Without innovation technology, you can't move the needle. You can't talk about net zero. So now the number that make me, lose sleep at night is 0. Because since we pledged for net zero this February, every now and then I will jump up and then I see 0 in front of me. So how do we really achieve 0? You need to set target, you need to track, and you need to communicate, because greenwashing is almost impossible nowadays. We are living in a very transparent world. Even you don't want to tell people, you can't tell people that, okay, by 2030, I tell you whether I can achieve it or not. You won't, investor won't let you go, and your stakeholder won't let you go. You need to do not just an annual sustainability report. For us, we even have a quarterly report online 24/7. So you need to be very open and transparent and very prompt. Otherwise, you won't get away anyway.
Sure.
Yeah. So I think I better stop now.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I will take another 30 minutes.
Well, I just want to just close that out, Esther, because you've talked about all of the attributes that someone leading sustainability needs to have, and there's so much, so many skills that a chief sustainability officer needs to have and use. But what's the measure of success? How do people know it's working? How do they know that the chief sustainability officer is making a difference in the organization? What are the signs? Very briefly.
Okay, first, I think for climate carbon data, those are quantifiable data. You set target, and every year you can track whether you are, how close are you on track, for the energy, reduction target. Especially, we have already established, set our SBTI target, reduction target since 2018. So every year you see the number. It's quite frightening, actually, whether you are on track or not on track. You have to really be open about it. So data is something that is very, very important now. Sustainability reporting is no longer an operational report, no longer a qualitative, oh yeah, I am committed to save the world, full stop. No, you can't. Right. You have to say, how are you going to save the world? Where are you now? Show me the number.
So if there's no data, the chief sustainability officer is not doing a good job.
Yes, I would think so.
Great. Lawrence, what do you think about all of this? Perhaps tell us a little bit about your interest in this field, and what do you think the key measure of success for a chief sustainability officer is in an organization?
Yes, thanks, Elaine. And coming after Esther, I have to keep myself short. I think I actually feel myself as the odd person out, the odd one out in this panelist. All of you are established CSO, Chief Sustainability Officer, and I'm the one actually measuring you. I mean, in fact, I don't wear a hat now, but I have no rabbit to pull out. I'm just going to show you a beef. This is the beef. So what my role is to look at all the organization, from CDL, UOB, Mahindra, or even AIA, Amita. Nice to see you again. Yes. So, if all the CSO and all the companies do well, that is my measure of success. I will do well. I will look good because I'm actually at the National University of Singapore, Center for Governance and Sustainability, and one of my key projects every year is actually to go around and take a ruler and measure, which is why I am so happy that Esther mentioned data. I'm actually looking for your data. So yeah, thank you.
Okay, wow. So data is taking the lead here as the measure of success for sustainability leadership in an organization. Amita, shall we come to you and hear about what you do at AIA and what you think is the key success measure?
Sure. Thank you so much, Elaine. Can you hear me? Okay.
Absolutely.
So first of all, I do want to say thank you very much. It's a great privilege to be here sitting with stalwarts of sustainability, Esther and Anirban and Lawrence and Eric, Professor Lowe, of course, not Lawrence, and in the company of Chef Elaine and Michelin-starred Master Chef Rajesh Chabra. So I am the group head of sustainability for AIA. So just a little bit about AIA. AIA is the largest pan-Asian health and life insurer with presence in 18 markets across Asia. I've been there for 7 months. Before that, I was 13 years with Unilever. And just to talk about AI very briefly, AI is a purpose-led organization. We've strived to make a significant positive impact for over a century for our customers and communities across Asia, and led by our purpose of helping people live healthier, longer, better lives. And to your question about what is the key success measure for a CSO? I know that the brief was from Rajesh to keep this light-hearted and fun and interesting, and Professor Lowe definitely did it with the stuffed toy that which he showed.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to say a recent quip that I heard for a chief strategy officer was that the chief strategy officer said, "Look, I'm responsible for nothing but accountable for everything." So if I had to think about the role of a chief sustainability officer, it's very much like that. The CSO role is about embedding sustainability into the core of the business in a way that will unlock business value. So if I have to expand that, it's about understanding the shifting landscape on sustainability and bringing those insights in. B, it's helping the organization to take action on the most significant and material ESG factors, setting KPIs and programs, and then driving organizational-wide accountability with the markets and the functions. And C, it's to provide thought leadership and aligning, connecting, educating, engaging internal teams, but at the same time, as Esther said, fostering partnerships externally and engaging with the stakeholders. So I would say that the key measures of success would be, have you set the foundation, which is about long-term vision, compelling story, anticipating the trends? Have you set the structure, which is the oversight, governance, organizational integration into accountabilities? And have you set the culture? Are you winning hearts and minds of the employees? And are you also fostering stakeholder engagement and collaboration outside?
Great, thank you. So it's about setting the foundation, bringing in the organization, embedding things through the organization, and driving the culture. And those are the key success measures in your view, Amita. That's great insights there. And yes, I think we can all identify with responsible for everything, responsible for nothing but accountable for everything. Great thought. So Eric, welcome to you, and let's hear from you a little bit about your organization and your views about what makes sustainability leadership successful.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks, Elaine, and thanks, Rajesh, for having us here. I am, as usual, the token banker on the panel, because we always got to talk about how money needs to be able to support sustainability in the real world. So quickly about UOB, we're obviously a leading ASEAN-based Singapore domiciled bank. And at the bank, we think about sustainability in a very customer-centric way, which is we finance every part of the economy. Every part of the economy needs to move towards net zero. Therefore, our job is to work with our clients in financing the transformation of their business models, the modern economy, etc., towards a net zero future, right? So the statement of the vision, the mission is very clear, right? So my role as a CSO, briefly, is I actually hold two hats within the bank. I am at the same time the head of group finance. So in that role, I'm responsible for the capital, liquidity, resources of the bank. And as CSO, I'm responsible overarchingly for the sustainability strategy, as well as roadmap and execution of the bank, right? And so it's interesting because having the dual hat forces the organization to play that perfect balance of making sure you have a sustainability strategy that is coherent and in line with your business strategy, right? That is properly supported, properly financed, properly invested, and therefore has real world impact with both your clients as well as the communities in which you serve, right? And so that's a brief description of my role. Similar to Esther, I wake up in the middle of the night screaming. Her trigger is the word zero, right? My trigger is how do we ensure we get our clients credibly and effectively along the journey? Because for us, it's very clear. If our clients don't make it, we don't make it, right? So a measure of success for us in terms of whether sustainability is working well is number one, is the strategy coherent and aligned across our business units, customer segments, product sets, and geographies, right? If that alignment's not there, I'm not doing my job properly, right? The second thing is, are we effectively bringing the entire organization along on this journey? Or do we have folks who are being dragged to the edge of the pool, the river, but refuse to drink, right? So there's a lot of evangelizing, communication, alignment that goes into it. And the mark of success, I think, beyond delivering to the targets, measures, and all that kind of stuff, which are all very important, is when you can sense your organization starting to innovate and deliver sustainability ahead of what you asked of them. That's when you know you've begun to unlock the organization in a way that it's not just compliance, it's innovation, it's growth. They're doing it because it makes sense for them. Just my thoughts.
Well, fabulous insight. So success is about getting a coherent strategy which is aligned across the business, bringing the organization along effectively with all of the tools and programs that are required, and starting to innovate. So going beyond, in fact, doing more than the Chief Sustainability Officer is actually telling folks to do or advising folks to do. That's a great insight. Thanks for that, Eric. So Anirban, we'll come to you to share your vast experience of working in such a large and impressive and complex organization and leading sustainability. Tell us a bit about that and a bit about what you see as the key success measures for a Chief Sustainability Officer.
Thank you, Elaine. All the spices are in the pot. I'm not going to add any more. I will just do a little bit of stirring. It'll sound like paraphrasing or summarizing. So the role of the Chief Sustainability Officer, embedding sustainability into different businesses and different functions. Second role of Sustainability Officer, building sustainability culture, and this is all within the organization. We run a program called Make Sustainability Personal that helps us do it. This has already been articulated by colleagues of ours on the panel. Measure of success, well, key measure of success is progress on milestones. And the second measure of success, as Eric just said, is if work starts, if the actions start bubbling up within the organization without needing further prodding. So this is within the organization. Outside the organization, yes, enable strengthening of the ecosystem as much as possible. We can't do all of this alone, so get people along and achieve larger goals that can be achieved beyond one organization. Nothing that you haven't heard before, but I hope with a little bit of stirring, the thing gets cooked properly.
Yeah, well, this is what any Chief Sustainability Officer needs to stir all of these ingredients. Thanks for that, Anirban. So you also emphasize the embedding of sustainability in the organization, progressing against identified and planned milestones, strengthening the ecosystem around an organization, and doing this sort of in partnership internally and externally. So thanks for that. Now, that's been quite interesting so far. So we've had, on the one hand, a very strong emphasis on data as being a key success measure, and on the other hand, an emphasis on more around establishing the foundation and building the culture. And it's interesting because yesterday we had a great discussion about boards and boards of directors. And one of the key things we heard is that the key ingredient that makes a board of directors success is love and passion and culture, sort of the culture, the embedding of this culture of thinking is really what makes it work best. And all of the standard, we heard Tim talk about how all of these standards are moving forward, and it'll be about data. None of the standards talk about culture. None of the standards really talk about embedding. They talk about what we can measure. So I think that's been really interesting that we're seeing different aspects of success being represented. How do you actually physically put this together in an organization? Should there be the chief sustainability officer with a big team reporting to that CSO, and that team sort of being responsible for implementing things in the organization? Or is the CSO more of a guide and an advisor, and the departments within an organization should resource themselves to advance sustainability programs and, just keep in contact? Esther, what do you think about that? How are you organized, and what do you think works best for practically leading sustainability?
Well, I think for sustainability is really a mainstream agenda now that require very specialized professional skill set, just like other professions like, accountancy, legal, engineering, audit and architecture and all that. So sustainability is not just a generalist, but I would say that we have actually the 4I, that it is actually the 4 pillars of our ESG strategy. The very first one is integration, because if you don't integrate, of course, we are talking about, maybe we have started, the journey early. So the culture part is already, I just didn't mention it, because integration, including the mindset and also the deliverable. So it has to be integrated. For us, we have like a cross. The top, from the board to the top management, mid management, operational, and all down the way, to even on-site, off-site, operational staff. And then horizontally, we have to, actually, I chair the sustainability committee that cut across all operational and business unit. And I only report to the board sustainability committee. So we have the support and the mandate, given by the leaders. And we also have the operational, integration. And I think that is very important, because we need the empowerment. We need to, to be independent so that we can set target and also measure target. But we need to truly integrate it into the whole, operation. And I can't just talk about green building without knowing how green building is planned, designed, and built. So you need to know both. And then, of course, the second I is actually about innovation and technology. The third one is about investment. Investment is very important as an investee company or as an investor. So we need to put money and resources in where the mouth is. And then last but not least, is the last I is impact. Anything we do have an impact. So that the 3 deliverable will be decarbonization. That is my top priority. Otherwise, you can't talk about net zero by 2030 for our. Sure. Then the second one is actually the digitalization and innovation. And then the last D is actually disclosure and communication. So that make the whole pot of, this sustainability hot soup, very tasty, and also engage everyone to taste it and contribute the ingredients to it. So I think, that's about all for what I would like to address your question. Yeah. So
you've got lots of I's, innovation, investment, integration, impact, and you've got lots of D's, decarbonization,
only 3 D.
digitization, disclosure. Wow, those are great ways to frame your stuff. And what I understood is that you believe a sort of matrix type of organization works best, where there's leadership that has real specialist skills in leading sustainability, but folks within the business units who are responsible and accountable for making things happen. That's how I understood it. Eric, how does that work with you guys in UOB?
Yeah, so it's a good structure that Esther mentioned. The federated model, or the hub spoke model, as we call it, is an important structure to be able to have the central brain lead the entire organization in a coherent and aligned manner, but be able to bring enough expertise, capacity building, and accountability into every single arm of the organization. So I definitely think that that's a good way to think about it. So back to something you asked Elaine, to Esther is, do we really need a CSO? I would say that at this point in time in our evolution, right, as we seek to transform the modern economy and businesses, it is quite a critical role. And the reason for that is the world is changing so quickly, right? You really do need someone who's a living, breathing job is to understand what's happening out there, how it represents either as risks or opportunities into your business model, how you need to be responding, and then with that level of senior mandate, be able to translate it very quickly to a very large and complex organization that needs clarity and leadership, right? So I would say definitely. Now, does that mean it's not everybody's job? Absolutely not, right? Like we discussed just now, a successful sustainability roadmap brings sustainability to every single individual where they can understand what their particular value add, contribution, and mandate is, right? So it's playing the 50,000 foot and playing the 5 feet. That's
Right.
part of it, right? In our space, it's very important that we get the support right from the top, because banking is a heavily regulated industry. So we need to make sure that our board, right, from a fiduciary regulatory lens, absolutely understands what needs to be done, and then to be able to flow it down through effective governance structures into every part of the organization. And that's actually where, beyond, like what Esther mentioned, the technical bits of the CSO and the corporate function in the center, is this whole communicating, influencing, negotiating, cajoling, right? The full suite of executive skills come to bear. And, it's a fun but mildly tiring job too.
Yeah, well, no one says our lives are easy in sustainability, but yeah, lots of influencing and cajoling, and as you said, it's everybody plays a role, but it's not everybody's job. In other words, there needs to be a sort of, I like that word, central brain leading sustainability. Lawrence, what do you think about this? I mean, how do you think a CEO of an organization should be holding the Chief Sustainability Officer accountable? Should he be asking the CSO for results, or should he be talking to, he or she be talking to the business leaders and having them report on sustainability?
Yes. I think on this specific question, I think it all depends on how the CEO views the CSO. And right now, I can already hear from all the discussion, we have quite a bit of different interpretations, and at the same time, convergence in how we see a CSO. Maybe now that we have this Suzuki Cup, the Asian Football Cup happening in Singapore now, a sustainability officer, the chief one, is he or she a cheerleader, or is he or she a referee, or is that person a player? And I say, for all this while, we've been thinking, especially if you look at Esther, I mean, sometimes you see a lot of a cheerleader role being there, and sometimes you have to arbitrate, you have to cajole, you have to influence, convince. That's a referee role. But I say to the CEO, we should treat the CSO just like any other business player. In other words, there's no difference. It is not because you are CSO, it's a marginal function. You are just watching by the side. It's a supportive function. I think a CSO is very much on the front line as anyone else, fighting in the trenches. And I think this is something that cannot be outsourced even to all the 9 departments. Thank you.
Right. So fighting in the trenches, on the front lines. Wow, that's battleground talk from you there, Lawrence. And you talked about cheerleader, referee, or player. Well, that's interesting. Amita, are you a cheerleader, a referee, a player? How do you see this complex relationship of who is really accountable for doing what in the organization? Who's the CEO should be, asking to account?
Yeah, thank you so much, Elaine. So whether I'm a cheerleader, referee, or a player, and I think I would have to say that I play different roles at different points in time. So it's not like I'm just the cheerleader. I'm sometimes just going, getting into the trenches, and I'm the player. So in fact, we have a board member who likens the role of a chief sustainability officer to one of a barrowman who sits on the crow's nest in a shipping analogy. So you know what that is. They're the ones who actually, that's the position in a ship. That's the best view for lookouts to look at approaching hazards. And other ships or the land, and predicting changes in the external environment is a very important part of the role of the CSO, because ESG factors are both risk and opportunities for the business. So that's a very important integral role that CSOs play. And to Eric's point and to your question earlier about is CSO important? Extremely important, because somebody's got to play that role and keep the organization ahead when it comes to specific ESG trends. So that's one thing that I'd like to say about the role of a CSO. I think the other thing that I would like to say is we have spoken about integration, all of us have, in terms of integration being a key role for the CSO. And what that means is then there are not disparate activities just running off in different directions that are happening under the ambit of sustainability. You need the CSO to make sure that everybody is actually rowing in the same direction and integrating all the activities to sort of, in line with the specific milestones, KPIs, direction, vision of the organization. So that's another reason why CSO's role becomes very important and should be held to account by CEO. And I would say the third one is, like Eric said earlier, Esther said, and all of us have said, this role is relentless. I know Esther is doing communication events on Saturdays and then reading up on Sundays. And then on Monday, she's back in the field, jumping into many other different conferences. I think she's the most popular CSO on LinkedIn, the influencer. You know what I mean? Like, she's at every event. It's truly admirable. And the point I want to make here is that the third job, apart from the crow's nest that I talked about, on the lookout, keeping the organization ahead, making sure we're integrating. And the third job is egging the organization on. That whole building of culture comes because you have the passion. That's why we are able to spend the weekends. We're able to be very relentless because we are just super passionate about, taking the organization on the agenda. So building, aligning, engaging, educating, and also then, as Anirban said so well, making sure we're contributing to a larger goal and building a more resilient ecosystem. So rising tide can raise all boats and your organization can thrive too. Yeah, thanks.
Well, great. Thanks for that insight. So it's not just about cheerleader, referee, or player. It's also about spokesperson. It's about the going outside the organization and getting that message out and inspiring others, being an example, a role model, making the issues clear to those outside of the organization as part of this contribution, as we heard before, to the broader ecosystem. So, Anirban, how do you feel about that? Who does your CEO hold accountable for the success of your sustainability implementation? And, are you a cheerleader, a referee, a player? Can you do your job without getting out there and speaking? I mean, we're preaching to conversion because all you guys are doing this and you're doing it so well. But is that how it should be for all CFOs? You're on mute.
Elaine, I actually have 2 words or phrases to add.
Okay.
The sustainability team in a large organization, certainly in a federation of companies like ours, plays the role of being a center of excellence and a subject matter expert. At least the people in the sustainability team keep figuring out what needs to be done. What needs to be done, how it needs to be done, who do you do it with, and so on. And now one has to work with businesses and functions first to tell them, hey, here are the things that we need to do. And from this whole list, here's something that you can make a contribution to. And then the question comes, okay, once you get agreement, how do we do it? And that's when you're a player in the game, because then you're playing the game with these people, guiding them on, okay, how you can go about doing it. But if you're successful in your role of embedding sustainability, very soon a few people will stand on their own feet and start doing things on their own. And when they are doing things on their own, you have to be a very good cheerleader, because then you've got to encourage them to continue doing what they're doing and to continue to excel and, keep learning for themselves. So maybe we'll run capacity building programs like we do, or connect them to places where they can learn from. So that's the role of the cheerleader. But then you've also got to check whether people are making progress. So then you become the referee. Sometimes you're blowing the whistle and sometimes you're giving them awards. But you've got to play the role of the referee. So once a year, I say we become a referee, and rest of the year, we are either players or cheerleaders, and also trying to figure out, okay, so what are the things that are going to happen in the future? Be a spotter. I think Amita said it better, but be a spotter of what's coming on the horizon.
And thanks for that insight. So I think everyone's sort of agreeing that there are different roles that come to the front of this complex sustainability leadership at different times and in different situations. But this is all great when you've got an organization which is supported from, and I think someone said it, the tone at the top. It's when there's top-down endorsement, it works. But there are many organizations today, they've just appointed someone in the role of sustainability because that's what the external markets or their investors or the shareholders are expecting these days. And they really aren't giving them that breadth of support and encouragement. And being a center of excellence may just be, a center of excellence. It may not actually have any teeth, have any power to get through the organization. What do you say, Anirban, to those sustainability officers who are so frustrated because they can't get their stuff agreed or implemented?
Completely agree with you. It almost sounds like you've taken me a few years ago. And when there was broad understanding that this needed to be done, we were lucky that the chairman gave us a benign umbrella of support to work under. But a lot of my peers who would come to me and say, we need to get this done, but nobody in the business wants to do it. Well, we've got lucky in a few ways that climate action, many of the ways in which you can take climate action, like say energy efficiency, is actually great for business. So if for a while you don't worry too much about whether your colleague understands climate change or not, but you worry, okay, this is a good thing to do for climate change. It's also good for business, and this guy can get it done, right? And you enable that guy to get the work done. I remember when I first came into this function here in the Mahindra Group, we had already done about 200 or 300 projects over the previous couple of years, which had given returns of 24% and above. Because my predecessor had done the hard work of working with people who could keep the agenda going even before the whole thing became a large program within the organization. And when we looked at that data, the job I had was to go to the CEO and say, this is possible. And we can even scale this to 1,000 projects. But then we will need some money to be able to do it. But the good news is you will get great returns on the money. So how much money can we put on the table? So when you show numbers like that, very few CEOs turn around and say, no, don't do more. So I think we got lucky there. And one of the things we had to keep doing is finding out what's useful for the business now and which is also great for the planet. So we keep saying that there's a lot of opportunity in the overlap between planet and profit. This is true in any new activity. You've got to find out what will work first, what will work now.
Sure.
And with a few successes, I guess you can scale it up.
And there's so much data around these days, isn't there? I mean, there's so much experience that demonstrates how sustainable organizations are creating value. So thanks for that insight. I think, Chef Rajesh, I think we maybe have time for just a question or two. If we've got some interesting questions from our chefs in the audience.
Yeah, we can take a question or two, Elaine, but I'm burning with envy that you got to cook with for all these celebrities sitting here. I don't like it. So, some of the questions which I see here got covered. And one question I still see here is that what should be the qualification of a CSO, or does it really matter?
Anyone like to take that? Amita, you go ahead.
Okay. So I think I'm going to talk about both skills and competencies. I think I'm going to start first with the competency. I think I'm going to say one of the core competency that a CSO needs to have is one of passion for the topic and wanting to continuously learn and just this. I talked about the passion earlier. Just continuously wanting to learn more about what's going on in the world and in terms of sustainability. And I think because the sustainability landscape is shifting so fast that it's not about knowing it all. It's not also about learning it all. It's actually about accessing it all. And so in order to keep relentless pace with that, you need to have the right passion to keep growing and learning. So that's one thing. The second thing that I would like to say is that we've all talked about embedding and integrating sustainability as a core part of the organization in order to build successful ESG aligned or sustainable businesses. And so therefore, another core competency for CSO is influencing skills. So you have to be able to manage stakeholders up, down, and across, internal and external, in order to mobilize and galvanize action to build truly sustainable businesses. And I would say the third really important thing is the intersection between building the understanding of the business and how sustainability can help to capture value through more growth or less risk or lower cost or improved trust for the organization. How do you sort of, understand the real impact of sustainability for the business and are able to demonstrate it to your key stakeholders is the third very important criteria for a CSO to have. So I think...
Great.
Anirban, I see his hand going up.
I couldn't resist myself after listening to Amita. So let's just translate that into qualifications. You could, depending on your organization, come from one of four functions and be able to drive sustainability well. These four functions could be either operations, like in a manufacturing companies like ours, or you could be from finance and risk management, or you could be from HR, or you could be from strategy. All these levers are embedded in sustainability work. Which lever you want to pull first or you want to pull the hardest could determine where you pick up your person from. So if you have the passion and you have the ability to influence and you have a business sense and you have qualifications in any one of these four and experience in any one of these four, you can step in and lead sustainability work. And if you have the ability to go beyond your function and influence the other guys as well, it's awesome.
I'll just perhaps comment on that, and we do see many chief sustainability officers coming up through the legal stream. So general counsel, legal, chief,
Also,
perhaps with an emphasis on compliance, but
I stayed away from those two because legal looks at it from a compliance perspective. I don't see a person with a legal background driving carbon neutrality very well. And I know I've met a lot of communications people at the ASRA summit representing their organization. Mm-hmm. They have a very key role to play in reporting and disclosures. But if they don't have a business background, they will also find it tough to get the real hard projects getting done. So they need to be a part of the team. But if you want somebody to head the function and drive it, our preference is one of these four.
Great, thank you.
May I just actually disagree slightly, Anirban, with you. You've got somebody like Esther, who's highly successful, sustainable CSO, who does not come from any of these functions. She comes from brand and communications. My background is 8 years of marketing to start with. So I would say, I think marketing and communications, because of advocacy, because of the communication that you need for internal and external, and then of course a business sense. And I think whether you can come from any function, you need to build that business sense, have a tremendous passion, and as I said, just be able to commit to learning and accessing it all. So
if you are saying it doesn't matter, Amita, I mean, it's not going to end this debate. I know if we continue, we can continue to debate until 5 p.m. perhaps. So I know, Esther, you want to say something in just one line, because I know it's.
First, I'm really grateful for, I'm really grateful for Amita, but I think you need to be a really passionate, energized, bunny, and never stop learning. Every day you're reading, because sustainability is changing so much, but you need someone who, I talked about my ABC, theory before that, alignment is very important. No two person will think alike. So your job is really to align, and then the business value, business case is very important, because you need to convince the marketing people, the product design people, hey, you do this, you're going to sell better, and then you have to take care of the common good, because you have to make money, you have to maintain profitable, because we have to return value to our stakeholders and investors, but not at the expense of people and, the planet. That's the, the ABC of thing. I still remain that, that my ABC. And of course, the D is about disclosure and communication. So gone are the day that I do good, I keep quiet, but sustainability is really this ESG disclosure is like, how do you bring, a business case out and you are doing good and doing well. And the best is you can do well financially by doing good. Yeah. So I think I better stop here now.
Okay. List Fabulous. Of 5, not a list of 4.
Thank you.
So we can have a session on this one day.
We definitely should. But I think we're sort of going to need to clear the tables now so that we can make room for the next course.